You know what? What's Aiyuk going to get traded for? Is it going to be a second? I think it's like a...
Seems like it.
Seems like I think I heard
that
like
a boatload of cash, which I think he's
Dude,
overrated.
You know who I like this year?
Who?
Dude, I'm seeing a bunch of propaganda about Jahan Dotson.
Last year, there was 1 week that clown scored 2 touchdowns. It was the week...
Oh, yeah, that was the week I
finally fed it up and benched him.
That was the week I
goes
started
out those 2 touchdowns. Then I put him back in the lineup. He did nothing again until I finally cut him.
And Austin Eckler's definitely not going to do it.
No, and the dude that's in that offense that actually I hear some good things about that's getting no love anywhere is Zach Ertz, tight end.
Zach Ertz can't stay healthy.
Yeah, but quarterback's best friend.
Zach Ertz used to be the man.
I know, and he was lighting
What
it up.
happened to Logan Thomas? Is he not on the team anymore?
No, forget that clown too. I had him last year as well. I feel like I feel like the tight end needs to be like rebranded. Like that position needs a new name. It's not a good name.
I don't know about that.
I think you need like something that's like more like mega receiver.
Speaking of tight ends, I saw this thing. That one guy who might be decent this year is Greg Dulcich.
He's on the Broncos still, right?
Yeah, and I was looking at the tight ends like I was doing mock draft. I was at the end of the draft last week. I was like, "Where's Dulcich? I have a weak tight end. I'll take him." He's down like 470.
Yeah. I've gotten burned by Dulcich. Dulcich will not be on my team. But I do get the hype. Him and Chigakonkwo always get late juice. Always get late juice right before our draft starts. So it's like, don't sleep on a Konkwo.
Have you ever taken... You took Chigakonkwo.
Yeah, I took Chigakonkwo. I'm tired of him. And I've had Dulcich. I've had all those clowns.
I don't think this might not be my best podcast.
Why?
I'm a little scrambled today.
Don't worry, I'm laser focused. This is like, I told you, this is like my Super Bowl. I love fantasy football. This is like the highest point for me because at this point...
Because you still think you can win
exactly.
at this point?
Because this is the highest my hopes get, and then from there, it just... What's up, everybody? And welcome to another episode of... Drumroll, please! Zach and EJ Talk Sports, episode 22, the Double Deuces, the Reggie Bush Miami Dolphins episode. And as my trusty partner has told me, Reggie Bush and the Dolphins was Reggie Bush's... That's your cue to talk.
What are you saying? Why are you
It
pointing?
was his best season.
Okay.
You just took all the air out of the balloon. But today, even Zach right now cannot rain on my parade. While we're actually doing this, side note, we are doing this in hurricane or tornado gale force weather. So we are risking life and limb to bring this podcast to you today. And we have a great one for you. We're going to touch briefly on the Olympics. We're going to get Zach's take on his New England Patriots and Brandon Aiyuk. And then we are going to dive deep into fantasy football. Are you ready, my friend?
I'm ready, EJ.
We are coming down the home stretch, man. This is our last really kind of start to the fantasy season together. Yeah. You'll be in college.
Yeah, that's
after
true.
This.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start auditioning replacements.
Okay.
Unless we can re-up and have you going remote.
We'll see.
We got to make it count. Okay. So, first of all, the Olympics have been going on now for some time. We know Simone Biles is doing her thing. And all eyes have also been on men's basketball, who, as of late yesterday, had a major scare with Serbia. Mm-hmm. So what has been your take of the men's Olympic team and the way that these players are being used?
So I think, first off, you got to hit the coaching. I mean, it's a great coaching staff. You have Spoelstra, you have Ty Lue, you have the Gonzaga coach, and then you have Steve Kerr. Even going to this Olympics, I kind of had the opinion, I don't think Steve Kerr is this amazing coach. He's a fine coach, but he's not this guy who's going to draw up a winning scheme against the Serbia or any of them. So I was like, okay. And I think he's kind of anti-Celtic, which I was originally fine. Jaylen Brown didn't make the team. I didn't really care. I was like, it's more rest for him. It's like, there's great players, that's understandable. But Jason Tatum, who is arguably, right now, the best player on that team, not playing in the Olympics because he's not playing, but like in the NBA, he might be the best American NBA player, and he's not playing at all. So I understand if he's on the bench. They have a great starting lineup. Even for a lot of time, Durant's not coming. He's not starting. But not playing at all just really doesn't make sense, because it's not like Jason Tatum's this guy who needs the ball. He's a fantastic defender. He's a great passer. He has a lot of size for these smaller teams they're playing. It really doesn't make sense. But with that being said, I think Durant and Curry have been fantastic. Durant, the whole tournament, he's been great. When they need a bucket, like even last night, the shot clock was down to 5. Durant just said, I'm going to go to work. I'm going to go to my run. I'm going to pull up mid-range. It was a bucket. Curry has been kind of underwhelming in the tournament up until the game against Serbia, where he was amazing. He had like 36 points, and he almost single-handedly kept them into the game until they were ready to go. My opinion on LeBron, and I've never been a LeBron guy, and LeBron had some great passes. He's really hustling. He really wants it, and he had a clutch time bucket. He shoots a lot. Like, especially in this, I think he thinks he's the guy on the team, which he very well might be, but he's shooting all of these turnaround, doing all this jumpers. And I don't watch the Lakers, so I don't know if this is what he does all the time, but he's taking these so difficult shots, and a lot of times he's making them. There's been a few games I'm watching him like, just pass the ball, LeBron. And he does pass the ball, but I've always been of the opinion that LeBron gets assists, but he's not this great playmaker. Where as to the level of a guy like Chris Paul or someone like that. But really, to be fair, I don't want to discredit LeBron. He's been amazing for Team USA. He's been the leader of the team. So those three, along with Derek White, Drew Holiday, Bam, AD, Booker. Besides those three, a lot of guys are really playing their roles well, especially Booker. He's kind of just, he's locking in defensively. He's hitting threes, but he's not going isolation like he usually would in Phoenix. So I feel very confident going into the gold medal game.
Has there been a U.S. men's Olympic team that has been better than the original Dream Team? No.
I didn't watch the Dream Team.
Were you born for the Dream Team?
Not even close. You're 15 years too early. But I wouldn't say this. The Redeem Team was really good in 08 after they lost in 04. But I wouldn't say this team compares to the Dream Team because a lot of the guys in the team, even LeBron, Curry, Durant, they're not at the peak of their powers, I'd say, like some of the Dream Team members were. So I'd say in a series, I'd say the Dream Team would beat them. But it depends because there's the evolution of the three-point shot, and it's a little complicated.
And the Dream Team, you didn't even really have Magic and Bird at their peaks. They were already
at the end of their careers.
Yeah, because Bird had the bad back. So let me ask you a question. If you could put together your Dream Five, who are they? Who's your starting all-time starting five?
For Team USA or just anyone?
Let's go Team USA.
Team USA?
Yeah.
It depends. What era are we playing in? Are we playing in it today?
Well, yeah, we'll say modern era. I mean, we're not using peach baskets.
So then I was just thinking of Magic versus Curry. I'm going to go Curry at the point, just because if we're playing the modern, you got to have the shooting. So the shooting's there. So this is a Team USA lineup. So I don't know if I want to go with the players who were best for Team USA. But, I mean, at the two, it's not that hard who I'm picking between. I'm picking between Jordan and Kobe. I mean, Kobe was great for Team USA, but Jordan's the better player. So I'm going to say Jordan at the two. Then, here's where it gets a little tricky. Well, I guess we got to go LeBron at the three. Yeah, LeBron's got to be at the three. I wanted to say Melo because Melo was great for Team USA, but we're going to go LeBron at the three. And then the four is tricky. You could go with a big four, but since we're playing in the modern era, I'm going to go Durant, all-time leading USA scorer, at the four.
Respect to him.
And then the five.
It's got to be Shaq.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. Is there anyone I can say beside? No, it's got to be Shaq.
Got to be Shaq. Now, is there a scenario we can get Kobe and Michael on the floor at the same time?
I mean, there is a scenario if you want to play one of them at the three, but they're such similar players. I don't really know if we want both of them at the floor.
Could you move one to the point?
I mean, you could, but I don't know if I mean, the shooting wouldn't be as strong in the lineup as a team with Curry, because I mean, if even in my lineup with Jordan wasn't this big time 3-point shooter.
Yes, he had the flu.
He could shoot the three, but he wasn't a 3-point shooter. LeBron's obviously his primary skill is not shooting the three. You got Durant and Curry, great shooters. Shaq can't really shoot it that well. Well, Shaq can't shoot it at all. So I wouldn't really take the spacing out of the lineup, no.
Gotcha. Okay, I like it. I like that team. Now, let's move on, transition. It was announced that flag football actually is now going to become an Olympic sport. So that'll be pretty cool to see. But transitioning from the Olympics to the NFL, the hot news right now, as we are kind of working our way through week one of the preseason, is Brandon Aiyuk is on the move. And he started the week off with 3 solid suitors: Browns, Steelers, Patriots. I actually really liked the Patriots. Thought that would be a fantastic spot for Brandon Aiyuk, who actually I feel is a touch overrated. I think we're going to see him outside of that system and outside of all those weapons. Like again, like it's and I know I'm setting us up for something, but my issue is this: when you're paying a guy to be the guy who's never been the guy.
Well, that's just not true.
How's he been the guy when you have Kittle?
Okay,
Debo,
I thought you were talking about wide receiver 1. I mean,
it's like, has he even been wide receiver 1? Like, do you think defenses are watching and they're watching that, and defensive coordinators are saying, out of all these weapons, the guy we got to stop is Aiyuk. Let Debo go crazy. Let McCaffrey run ham. Let Kittle get up. We're shutting Aiyuk down. He will not be the one that beats us.
Well, obviously McCaffrey's the first guy you focus on. Right. I think last year, offensively, the offense, I can't speak for the defenses, but the offense was more built around Aiyuk than Kittle or Debo last year, at least for the beginning of the season. At the end, Debo took a lot of touches back, but I think Aiyuk was amazing last year. I don't think there's 10 receivers better than Aiyuk. He's an amazing route runner, and I think any of those teams, he'd obviously be the wide receiver 1 on those teams. He announced the Patriots backed out. He's not going to be a Patriot. I really like Aiyuk. I would have liked him to be a Patriot. However, I don't really feel we need him because right now that contract would have been a lot because we're paying him over 30 if we had traded for him. And we're not trying to win right now. I want the number 1 pick next year. I'm not saying we need a tank, but we don't have to tank. We're not good. So we can pick up a wide receiver with our pick next year, or really it's not that hard to find a receiver where I don't think I'm not losing that much sleep over missing out on Brandon Aiyuk. I would have loved to have Aiyuk, but I don't think it's a franchise-altering move missing out on Aiyuk. For the Steelers and Browns, I mean, they're not really these great quarterback situations either because he didn't want to play for the Patriots because of the quarterback situation. I mean, the Steelers, Justin Fields might be the starter, and I'm a Justin Fields guy, but he can't read a defense.
Right.
And the Browns, I mean, who knows what's going on with Deshaun, if he's going to be healthy or if he's going to be good. So I think Aiyuk, his production will take a step down, obviously, wherever he goes next year. But I don't think that really diminishes his quality as a player and how good of a player he is.
So in the modern salary cap era game right now, what's the salary cap? Around $200 million, somewhere in there?
Ask someone else. I don't really know.
Producer, what's the NFL salary cap right now? So where I'm going with this is I think it's around $200 and something million. I think they just increased it a little bit, but I think that's the general ballpark.
255.
Okay, yeah. Look at it.
I mean, you were 55 off.
Yeah, but I was in the ballpark because they increased it. I don't know if they increased it $55 million this year, but they increased it. Anyway, with a $255 million salary cap, and I'll ask you which teams you could think of. How many legit big-time contracts can a team support with a $255 million a year salary cap? So I'm trying to think right now, which team out there would have the biggest hitters?
Right now or in the future?
Well, I'm thinking like right now, like what teams would be, because I know, well, obviously you know that like teams like Denver are in salary cap hell, but that's because of the Russell Wilson trade and
not
and
because
all
they
the
have good players.
Capomics, cap economics, and things like that. But like, for example, an argument that I was having with Dolphins fans because we signed Mr. Show Me the Money, Tua, to a contract, and when you're paying a guy to now be the guy who's going to be commanding, if he's making $55 million a year, Tua, right? That literally leaves $200 million for the rest of the entire team. So you're not going to be able to have all these weapons around you, as these guys move on. So now they've signed Waddle, they re-signed Hill, so there's not going to be a ton of money left. So you're going to see dips in the defense or whatever. But with like paying Tua, like me personally, I wouldn't have paid him. I would have made him play this year out, and then I would have tagged him for the next 2 years.
But do you know he would have played?
What?
You know he would have played? What if he sat out?
If he sat out, then I would have went with who we have.
I think I like your idea, but the issue is that's just where the market is. It's not like I don't think anyone's going to come here and argue that Tua himself is worth $55 million. I don't know if anyone besides Mahomes is worth $55 million.
There's a comfort level. Like, where's your comfort level? Let me give you 3, and you can rank them in this order. 4. The 4 most recent. Goff, Lawrence, Tua, Love. From most confident giving them the money to least confident.
Okay.
What's your order?
So most confident, it's between Love and Goff. I'm going to say Goff.
Okay.
Because I'm a Goff guy. I think he's not necessarily a guy, like we have this conversation a lot, he's not a guy who's going to change the game. But he's going to be an integral part of winning you games. And Detroit's going to be in a tricky spot with all of the weapons they have and all the players they have because they can't pay all of them.
Right.
So that's going to get tricky, but I feel like he's a guy who I think I'm very confident paying that money. Then Love.
And he has, and he's got a little bit of a resume. He took one franchise to the Super Bowl, where they lost, and then he took another to the
3 points.
and he took another to the NFC Championship.
Yeah, and he's been doing it for a while.
Right.
So, and then Love, I look at Love, and I think what I saw last year from Love in the second half, it was such a good second half, even the full season, you can say, with his stats, was better than anything I've seen from Lawrence or anything I've seen from Tua.
Love won a playoff game.
Yeah, exactly.
And
then,
Lawrence has won a playoff game.
I'm not a Trevor Lawrence guy. But I'm going to say Lawrence out of Tua, just because I think Lawrence can get better. I really don't see the vision of Tua becoming a better player. I think Tua's a fine player. I think he's a fine quarterback. But I think it's kind of set in stone what he is. I don't think Tua's going to take this astronomical leap and improve any of these areas of his game where people are really saying he needs to improve. I think he's kind of just is who he is. And I think right now he probably is better than Trevor Lawrence. But I think Trevor Lawrence is still has much room to improve and get back to even better than the form he was when he took them to that playoff game.
Right. And you got guys in the NFL, right? Like, you hear when they talk about, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Herbert, that, these guys, you don't need to line them up with, a star-studded cast of receivers that they can elevate. And once they form their connection, their camaraderie with the players that the team has brought in, they're able to lift and keep things moving forward. Now, Mahomes didn't have statistically his best year last year, but it ended with him winning the second of back-to-back Super Bowls. 2 Super Bowls since Hill has left. Arguably, one of the best, if not the best receiver right now in the NFL. I think we can debate that. Burrow, for example, you can let Boyd go and not really feel like, and you're missing, and he has not had a solid tight end the whole time.
But he has T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So.
Yes, T. Higgins, and he's probably going to lose Higgins as well.
Yeah, so then we'll see.
Right.
I don't think you can say that about Justin Herbert.
He has nobody right now.
He has nobody, but he has had people. But even I don't care if he's had people. I've never seen him do that and elevate this corpse to a level it wouldn't be before. I'm never really very impressed in Justin Herbert. I'm not a Justin Herbert guy. It's nothing against Justin Herbert. He hasn't won.
So then in that draft class of Burrow, Tua, Herbert, Hurts, and Love, what's your order?
For who's the best player?
Top to bottom.
So Burrow's the best player.
Burrow's your top quarterback.
If Burrow's healthy, he's just as good as Allen.
Okay, he's your one.
He's right behind Mahomes. So I think he's pretty clearly the one. Then it gets a little tricky. For me, it's between Love and Herbert. I'm going to go Herbert just because he's done it for longer, but then Love 3, Hurts 4, Tua 5.
Okay. That's probably the order I would put them in as well. Jalen Hurts, I don't really have a lot of confidence in his game. He has a very strong drive. I like his like commitment to getting better. I just can't figure out if it's the offensive philosophy or what, but there just appears to be these inconsistencies in their game where I still don't feel like when it's on the line and he has to make a play with his arm, that there's a lot of confidence there for me right now.
I will say going into last year, I had a lot more confidence because not only was he's always been a great fantasy player, but I think on that Super Bowl run, he was amazing. He was really good in the Super Bowl. So I felt confident that if he maintained that level, he's not as good as some of those other guys, but he's a very good quarterback. Now, last year, it wasn't, it was there for a while, but even when they were winning, I wasn't like feeling like Jalen Hurts is having this monster year. And then they started losing. It was just like, what's happening?
I think he's gonna be one of the first coaches let go. Is Sirianni?
Yeah, well, he almost got fired this year. So
yeah, I mean, so I think with that team right now, and even actually some of the reports coming out of camp are that him and Hurts aren't seeing eye to eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hurts was calling Wink.
Yeah.
For some reason, and yeah, they don't really. It's I don't know what's happening in Philly, but this is Hurts' make or break year because they brought in Saquon. They have all the offensive weapons. If he can't do it this year, I think they might ask some questions.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's going to start with the head coach, but then it's going to come down to the quarterback and say, well, why can't you win with this team?
Right. When you bring in a Saquon Barkley, who's going to demand, and not demand meaning him like demanding, but like his presence, his ability, his talent is going to demand, a certain number of carries and, and a certain amount of the offense kind of work its way through him. Does that actually diminish some of what Hurts can do? Like that's where, you wonder about the impact of, having a back that you're asking to kind of, get you your ground yards, and then now telling your quarterback when you're back there, we need you putting the ball down the field.
I will say that he's going to have to put the ball down the field because if he's not throwing the ball to A.J. Brown, he's going to go to the sideline and actually demand targets because he does that pretty much every game. I don't think it diminishes it because the offense is going to be better. I mean, Saquon's going to be there. And I noticed this last year with him. I noticed it with Josh Allen. I noticed it with Lamar. In the regular season, they were taking off less. I think it's because they saw what happened to Richardson and they kind of were looking and they don't want to get hurt. And scrambling, it's dangerous. So I think then when it came to the playoffs or these really important games, they were really using their legs. But on the regular season, they were kind of, this is what annoyed me about Justin Fields too, because he was my fantasy quarterback. The offensive coordinator, we're not even going to go to the offensive coordinator, but they weren't calling any designed runs for Justin Fields. And I think there was less for a lot of quarterbacks last year. So I think Saquon will actually help Hurts' game because it's going to help his passing game because DeAndre Swift wasn't taking a 5-yard check down to the house for Hurts, and now Saquon might do that.
Okay. So which tandem of mobile quarterback now and, top-tier running back do you like better? Do you like the combination of Hurts and Barkley or Jackson and Henry?
I think I like Hurts and Barkley. Just because right now, and I might regret saying this, I think Saquon is, when he's healthy, a better player than Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry's still great. I think he's very hard to tackle. I don't think he's on the same level he was in past years. Obviously, that's true. He's getting older. But I think it's very possible that this year in Baltimore, even though the offensive line's better, and he probably is going to have a monster year, I think we see a little more regression from Henry. I think Saquon's better right now. And then I think quarterback-wise, if we're talking about mobility, I still really like what Hurts can do on the ground, pretty much the same as Lamar.
I think what's interesting is that if you have, a Derrick Henry in the backfield, and he's, going to be, a real bruiser and somebody that, needs to get these carries going so that he can grind the defense down by the fourth quarter. Do you want, ideally, if you were writing up and chalking up an offense, would you want to see your defense with Lamar as your quarterback? Would you want to see the defense bunched into a tight box where they're all coming up to stop the run, which then allows all this space or potential for open space? Or do you want to see from the start like wide open offense with lots of space in it for a quarterback to find some of those cracks and get through? So from a baseline starting position, which kind of set would you prefer? Would you prefer to see, if you were queuing up a scheme for Lamar, would you want the defense pinching in tight into the box, which then creates a lot of room on the outside, or do you want to see them spread out all over the place where he can now find different lanes, in various and kind of improvise more with his legs?
That's a tricky question. I'm thinking just on that offense. So building on Lamar, I'm thinking about building around that offense. I think there's no question that the top two options in that offense are Lamar and then Henry. They're not going to be a passing offense. So I think I prefer to see them spread out where Henry could find the holes and then Lamar could find the holes. And once they sell out to stop that, I think Lamar is developed far enough with his arm once they start bunching up where he can find, say, Flowers or Mark Andrews or even probably still can take off if he wants to.
Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic. You know, being a Dolphins fan, the Dolphins are essentially the opposite, where they have put together, you know, the last couple of years just a track team. Mm-hmm. So it's all speed and spread everyone out and get everybody running, you know, like at full tilt, you know, before like as close as you can to the snap of the ball. Mm-hmm. I found it very interesting to see what the Ravens are doing, which is to have essentially a bruiser back there, which kind of gives you another version, like on the field at all times, of like the lightning and thunder kind of combination in that backfield, and it could be very dangerous. So the Ravens have me excited as far as like what they can do. I think you know, Isaiah Likely, like they could do some really interesting things out of a two tight end set.
Yeah.
And then Flowers is, you know, another, you know, I think he had an incredible year last year.
He did, especially in that playoff game.
Yeah.
Before he fumbled. And also the thing about the Ravens is they were like a few plays away from going to the Super Bowl. I mean, say Flowers fumbled on the goal line, diving for the pylon, when if he had went down, I mean, the odds are they're punching that in from the 2 or wherever it was.
Yeah.
That's a touchdown. Then there was also the play where Lamar, to his discredit, did throw into like triple coverage. It was a terrible read, but the receiver, I think, got pass interfered in the end zone. Do you call that? Maybe not, because Lamar just made one of the worst reads ever. But I mean, there was a few plays that if they had tilted their way, which like weren't that, it's not that unrealistic, they could have went their way, where they could have beat the Chiefs, and then suddenly they're in the Super Bowl, and we're talking about them very differently than we are right now.
100%. I mean, you know, the NFC North, the AFC North, I think, is going to be like the most exciting division in football this year. Like that's just going to be, you know, 4 really, really great teams, all well coached. You know, going after it and playing a kind of a combination of old school and new school football. So I'm not, while I don't have a rooting interest in that, you know, division, it's going to be really fun to watch. But I mean, probably the biggest benefactors of that are going to be the Chiefs, the Bills, the top teams that don't have to function inside the division and can play in relatively, well, we'll see. I mean, I guess the Jets are the swing team in the AFC East. If the Jets actually are a fraction of what people think, then that's going to be a very competitive division as well.
For sure.
But if they're not, then it's just, you know, it's a 2-dog, you know, race. And I mean, do we really expect anybody this year in the AFC West to challenge the Chiefs? I mean, I think we'll see the Chargers play good, solid, hard-nosed football. They'll be well coached, but you know, they'll be a team that, like, you won't be watching them. You know, the type of team when you're watching them, like the early Dan Campbell Lions teams, where you're like, okay, they're not winning, but they're not a bad team. They fight. They play they play football the right way, and you could see that if they start collecting the right pieces, they're going to move. Where there's other franchises and other teams you watch, you're like, okay, they need to clean house and start over. So this all started with your take on Aiyuk, and while I know you'd like to see him end up on your fantasy team, before we transition to that, where would you like to see him? What NFL jersey would you like to see him wearing this year?
I think it would be cool to see him as a Brown next year. Just because I was kind of rooting for the Browns last year. I really liked their team. Flacco, everyone was going down. With Chubb out for a significant amount of the season, and when he comes back, who knows what percent he'll be. I'd like to see them get like another weapon and really kind of go forward and take on the big dogs of the AFC, mostly led by their defense.
Now, does Cooper still have to be part of that deal?
I'm not sure. That's where it gets a little tricky. Originally, it was like rumored that he might be going to the Niners in that deal. I mean, if I'm the Browns, I would probably hope not. But, I mean...
I think if that's the case, I think San Francisco wins that deal hands down. Cooper plus a second rounder.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, Cooper will easily replace, you know, a majority of Ayuk's production. So, yeah, I mean, if I was San Francisco, I'd make that deal in a heartbeat. If I was the Browns, I don't think I'd part with Cooper.
Yeah.
he's been a really, really steady producer for them since they've got him, and he's been through a whole myriad of quarterbacks. So, looking at this year's fantasy, we have a couple thoughts to begin with. First, I feel that this draft, you can approach it with a variety of strategies. I'm curious as to kind of how you're seeing the draft, but I think that 0 RB is completely valid given the way that this draft lines up, or hero RB. You could absolutely pick a stud running back with one of your first 2 picks, and then be able to get plenty of receivers throughout the course of the draft. Now we play in a standard 14-team league, so to me that's as competitive as it gets, and scoring is at a premium because we're not getting the receptions, and some of these players' values change. So for everybody watching, we're talking more from a standard format. And when we're talking about rounds, it's going to be a little bit, we're looking at it from a deeper perspective of 12 to 14 team leagues, as opposed to you softies that play out there in 8 and 10 team leagues and, have an all-star team by the 5th round. We're drafting 14 players around. So how about you? What's this draft looking like to you, and what kind of approach would you advise somebody in our league who is in a 14-team league to take?
Well, what I plan to do, which I think is probably the best strategy, is I like the hero RB. I like taking Bijan, Brees, McCaffrey, or one of the second-round running backs, and then building the wide receivers. I also find it's very rare I take an early tight end or an early quarterback. The first tight end I'd probably take off the board is probably Dalton Kincaid. He wouldn't be my first tight end, but that's probably the highest I'd go for a tight end. Quarterback-wise, I think there's almost no scenario where I take a quarterback in the first 5 rounds. I think I'm looking at guys like Kyler Murray, Jordan Love, Dak, even going down to Jaden Daniels or rolling the dice on Herbert or Lawrence. I feel like that's a better investment than using this premium draft capital to get a guy like Lamar or Stroud or someone like that. If I would go early quarterback, I'd go for Allen, and if I miss on Allen, then I'm pretty much just waiting. I don't really like Hurts or Mahomes or those guys as much as I like Allen. So if I'm trying to get an early quarterback and I miss out on Allen, then I won't be taking an early quarterback.
So let's look at this, and I'll read you the names, and you tell me where you feel the tier break. And we'll keep it general, is to the point of the same range players. We won't do micro tiers and things like that. But let's start first with running back. I'm going to read you the running backs as by the latest rankings on Fantasy Pros. And you tell me when I get to 2 names where from the first name to the second name you feel a break, a gap. Okay? So here we go. McCaffrey. Bijan Robinson. Breece Hall. Jonathan Taylor.
Gap.
Really?
I think those big 3, I think they're just in a tier above them. I like Jonathan Taylor. He was not that good last year. I don't know, I think he might have a really good season. But I think with Breece, Bijan, and McCaffrey, I'm fully confident that all of them, if they stay healthy, will be top 5, top 7 running backs.
Okay, so I am more forgiving than you because I can get deeper. I see McCaffrey, Robinson, Hall, Jonathan Taylor, Gibbs, Barkley, Henry. Then we get to Kyron Williams, and I'm going to put the break there.
You're saying Henry's in the same tier as Christian McCaffrey?
What I'm saying is that with a comfort level of my number 1 running back, okay? I'm not talking league winner, but I'm saying confidence that I am getting a top-tier back.
And you're that confident in Jonathan Taylor being a top-tier back?
Yes. To the point where I would draft Jonathan Taylor this year over McCaffrey. 2 years ago, Jonathan Taylor was the number 1 pick in the draft. He got hurt, and now we yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you this: over McCaffrey this year, I will draft Bijan Robinson. I will draft Breece Hall. I will draft Jonathan Taylor. I would not hate myself with Gibbs. My issue with Gibbs is that he shares the backfield. But I like his explosive playmaking, and I like the fact that he's going to be a bigger part of the offense from the onset. Where last year we had to watch him go maybe about the first quarter pole of the season before he really started, ramping up. Mm-hmm. But I'm not saying that McCaffrey, I expect Derrick Henry to week in and week out be scoring the same amount of points as Christian McCaffrey. Mm-hmm. But what I am saying is I trust the floor of these guys.
Do you think McCaffrey's going to get hurt?
I try not to bank or factor in injuries too much because it messes me up too much. But he had those 2 injury-ridden seasons.
Mm-hmm. He strained his calf in preseason, but he's going to be ready for week 1.
He did last year. I think that's what they say.
No, he just did it recently.
And he did last year too.
Okay, yeah. So it doesn't really matter. I think you're looking at a guy who basically scored a touchdown in every game last year.
Okay.
So I think it was every game but like 1, maybe 2. He scored a touchdown. He is the number 1 option by far on the best offense in football. In a team that's going to be playing either games they're winning, mm-hmm. he's the running back. Games they're close in, he's the number 1 option. Mm-hmm. There's no scenario where he's out of the game script.
Okay.
And he is just that good.
Right.
If he's healthy,
mm-hmm.
I can see maybe Brees, maybe Bijan, but after that it's just ridiculous.
Okay. All valid points, except you are taking McCaffrey at the 1.1. Right? Mm-hmm. So that is the peak. Like, that is the 1.1 means that all the expectation that you were drafting him at his absolute
ceiling. You just said you'd take Jonathan Taylor over Christian McCaffrey.
Yes, I would.
So you would take Jonathan Taylor over Christian McCaffrey at the 101.
Yes.
So then the same argument goes to Jonathan Taylor, except it's less realistic that he hits that.
I think Taylor is right now. Me personally, I think Taylor's dramatically undervalued. I think he was up until 2 years ago. He was the number 1 pick in the draft.
Well, he was, and then he had 2 straight bad years.
Well, he was injured.
He was.
And now he's got a new coach.
He's got a new coach. Okay.
He's got they've brought in more offensive weapons, mm-hmm. and I think that if you looked at based off his performance last year when he came back, there's a lot there, and he is just like McCaffrey. He's the 1 of 1. Mm-hmm. Who else is he sharing that backfield with? Zach Moss is gone. Mm-hmm.
Well, so that's his quarterback, who we both think might be hurt by week 3.
Right, and then you got Flacco, who's more traditional, which means all the running goes through Taylor now.
I think it is. I really like Jonathan Taylor. I think he's a great player, and I don't think he'd be a bad pick this year. Mm-hmm. It's just ridiculous to compare him to Christian McCaffrey. It's just unfair to him. I mean, I don't know how much you watched Christian McCaffrey last year, but
enough.
He is on a different level than Jonathan Taylor currently, player-wise.
Right, but we were talking about last year. Now we got to project into this year.
So you think McCaffrey's going to get worse?
I am saying that at this point in time, all of us that are drafting in these kind of positions, you're really juggling 2 things, right? You're juggling the reputation of the player, what you've done, your resume, your fantasy resume. Okay, we'll leave all the other non-fantasy stuff aside. Your fantasy resume. And then on the other hand, you have the question on the other shoulder of, can you sustain it another year? Right? So it's that. So for me, I get it. Like, you and I, lockstep. Everything you said about McCaffrey, I agree. Where the road splits for you and I is, I think you were buying McCaffrey like a stock. You were buying him at his most inflated. I think Taylor...
But anyone you take there is the most inflated. It's the first pick.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter who you take. It's going to be the most inflated. 100%. So why not take the best player? Besides Patrick Mahomes, Christian McCaffrey might be the best player in football.
Right. But what you're arguing, and I understand, is that when I move Taylor to that, I've put him at the most inflated. But that's not the point that I'm trying to make. I'm trying to make that McCaffrey is the consensus number 1, mm-hmm. right? Like Ani says. So that is it. So when it comes time to make that pick, you have the choice. Just like if we were looking at stocks right now, right? And we were saying, oh, well, Apple. Everybody's saying buy Apple right now. But, 10 or 11, stocks down, there's another stock that you're like, I like this stock.
But what you're saying is at the same price, you'd take that stock over Apple. That's what you're saying,
Yes.
which makes no sense.
Because you have to go on the fact that if you think
how
that there's
many
growth.
years has he been the RB1? You're taking him at a ceiling, but how many years has he hit that ceiling?
Who's this? We talking about McCaffrey or we talking about Taylor?
And we're talking about McCaffrey.
Okay.
How many years has Taylor hit that?
Hit what?
Hit his ceiling of being the number one running back in football.
Not many.
Exactly.
Right.
So you're taking Jonathan Taylor to do something he's never done.
Well, he did it because there was 1 year when he was the number one player in the draft.
He was the number one pick, but I don't think he was the top scoring player the year before, was he?
I do not know.
That's a tricky one, but McCaffrey, multiple years, has been the top scoring running back.
That's true.
So you're taking him at something that we know he can do and has done many taking Jonathan Taylor, a thing he maybe did one time.
Yes.
Actually, I'm pretty sure, wasn't he the first pick the year after his rookie year? Yeah, it was his second year. I don't think he was the RB1 his
Last
rookie
year, McCaffrey was the one.
The year before
and
was
the year
him.
before was Taylor.
And that was his second year. So no, I don't think he ever hit that category of being the RB1.
Right.
So you're taking him to do something he's never done.
Yes.
And you'd rather do that over a guy who's done it a bunch of times.
Yes.
So let's say I want someone to build me a table.
Okay. What kind of table? Mahogany?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
And they're both asking for the same price. And I have the pick between the guy who has built this table many times.
Okay.
Or the guy who has never built this table.
Right.
You want to take the guy who's never built the table.
Because he might build a super dope table. That's
But
completely the other guy.
You know the other guy can build the table.
But maybe what happens if that guy, every now and then loses a hand or a finger?
Well,
He's got a couple nubs because he might be able to make great tables, but every now and then he loses a finger
So
while
we're
doing
getting
it.
into the maybes. You're talking about
Right.
injuries again. So we're talking about injuries.
Well,
so
no, we're saying I started my part of the argument off by saying that we juggle two prevailing thoughts, all of us, right? Anything. It's the resume, and then it's the future projection. And the future projection relies more on what we would have to call, for the most crudest sense, gut instincts, right? Our gut. What is our gut telling us? My gut is telling me Christian McCaffrey is at his most inflated price right now.
But you're taking someone else at that same inflated
Yes.
price. If you're saying Jonathan Taylor is a better value, maybe I could agree. But you're saying Jonathan Taylor is better.
I think he's going to have a better fantasy year.
So, but if Christian McCaffrey is healthy, he should be.
Do you want me to really just drive you crazy? Because I can give you a really hot take. I can give you about 6 players in this draft I would take over Christian McCaffrey. Ready? Number 1, first player I would take in this draft, Jamar Chase. 1. 2, Tyreek Hill. 3, Jonathan Taylor. I'm giving you my top. I'm giving you the order. So if we were drafting back to back,
Jonathan Taylor, you like Taylor more than Brees and Bijan?
Brees after that, then Bijan, then Amon-Ra, then CD, then Jefferson, then McCaffrey.
Sorry, what pick did CD just fall to?
CD would have been around the 7 or the 8.
Okay.
Yeah. That's it. You heard it here first.
That's ridiculous.
But why?
Because McCaffrey, you're banking on injuries. That has to be a piece.
I'm not banking on injuries.
If McCaffrey is healthy,
Yes.
he is better than Jonathan Taylor.
Says who?
What do you mean says? He has been and has always been.
Right.
There has been no point where Jonathan Taylor, when they're both healthy, has been better than Christian McCaffrey. And if Christian McCaffrey's healthy, there are no signs that he's going to slow down.
So there were no games last year, no weeks. If we pulled up the side-by-side comparison last year of Taylor and McCaffrey, there was no week where Taylor outscored McCaffrey.
We're talking week by week. I'll give you. You want to hear McCaffrey's
Break it down, baby.
Game log last? Where can I see last?
And put up Taylor's right next to it.
I'm not that technological.
Well, we need a bigger budget, producer.
I'm pulling it up.
All right. You want me to keep talking while you're doing it? Because I can keep
going.
Yes. So, again, I understand you're latching on to this price tag that comes with the 1.1. You're saying anybody you move to that now is the most inflated, but that's not the case. The point is, what I'm saying is for McCaffrey to get to all those people, get to leapfrog all those people, that he is going off this body of work that he has done. And it can't be denied. It can't be retracted. He has been a scoring god for the fantasy leagues up till this year. I am saying that right now you are buying that. You are buying his resume from the years before. And yes, will he be a decent fantasy player this year? Probably. He's got a good floor, and he'll give you some awesome weeks. But at the same point in time, I'm thinking, my gut's telling me, take a running back on the uptick. Take a running back who is also a one-of-one in the backfield, not sharing that backfield with anybody, who has maybe fresher legs and has, shown flashes of being able to do it. Breece Hall, I can make an argument I'd take Breece Hall over McCaffrey. Look at the numbers Hall put up with Zach Wilson. I know. But I'm saying if you want to remove Jonathan Taylor, if that's too spicy of a take for you, well, I could say Breece Hall.
So here are his standard game by game last year. This is McCaffrey.
Okay.
22.9, 19.5, 17.9, 41.7. Do you want to hear his stats for that game? He ran for 106 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yes.
He had 7 receptions for 71 yards and a touchdown.
Yes. Who did they play? My high school?
Arizona.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tough one there.
There was also a game where he threw a touchdown.
So, okay, everybody out there, here's a hot take. Start McCaffrey when they play the Cardinals.
Okay, and then he had a week of 12 and 11.2 against 2 of the best defenses in the league.
Okay.
Is that bad? Not really. 19.6, 23.8.
Okay.
14.2.
Yes.
16.3.
Yes.
25.9.
Nice.
19.3.
Sweet.
15.3.
Fantastic.
36.7.
Dope.
19.1. And then week 17 against Washington, he only had 10.
Unbelievable.
So there we go. And now we're going to go to Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, break it out. Get ready.
Oh, shoot, I can't. Where is he? I'm looking at the top running backs. He's not even here.
Just keep taking your shots, man.
I don't even see him. I don't know where he is.
I'm holding up that fantasy trophy.
He's down at RB.
Pointing at you this year.
He's down at RB 28.
And,
okay.
And replaying this on loop during my victory speech.
He didn't play the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, because he was hurt.
We know what he did in the first week back?
Yeah.
3.4.
Yes, because they let Zach Moss play.
All right, next week, 6.5.
Warming up.
Then he had an 18.
Progress.
Then he had a 9.
Okay, a little
Then
regression.
a 12.
To be expected. Nice.
Then a 13.
Sweet.
Then he did have a 21.
Boom.
Then he missed another 3 weeks.
Well, he had to rest up.
Then 10.
Nice.
16.
Came back strong.
And then he finished it with a 25.
Bam. Exactly. That's our guy right there.
So
draft that man.
he had one great week.
The last week.
Mm-hmm.
When it mattered.
Do you know who else had a great last week?
Who?
Zamir White.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure about Zamir White, though. But
in your same argument, he had that many points in his... I want to find it. Can I search here?
So what you're telling me, though, just want to make sure that, because we are on the record, is with the 1.1, Zach's team is taking Christian McCaffrey. Mail it in. When the commish, if he ever releases our draft order, and we see picking first in our draft, Zach's team with a little Patriot helmet, I'll just tell the commish, skip right to 2 when the draft starts.
Well,
McCaffrey, pencil it in.
I'm 95% sure. The other 5% is CD Lamb. If I'm taking a running back, I'm taking Christian McCaffrey.
So it's either Lamb or McCaffrey. But
Yeah.
we're 95% on McCaffrey right now.
Yeah.
Why it's the 5% for Lamb?
Because it just depends what position I want to go. If I want to go wide receiver, CD Lamb, I think is the
But
best
why
wide
would you
receiver.
pass up the greatest scoring running back of all time
If I want a wide receiver.
over the greatest scoring running back of all time?
I didn't say all time. I said Jonathan Taylor.
All right. So we differ clearly on where the tier break is with running backs. You were much stricter on running backs than I am. Okay, fair enough point. Wide receivers. I'm going to start reading you names. I think it's clear where we have the break.
Okay,
We'll see if you and I are in lockstep, if maybe we share our same opinions when it comes to receivers. Here we go. Lamb, Hill, Chase, Jefferson, Brown, Amon Brown, A.J. Brown.
break between Amon-Ra and A.J. Brown. I don't like A.J. Brown.
Really? Garrett Wilson.
I think Garrett Wilson I would actually throw in that first year before A.J. Brown. And then I think I'd call it. Because my thing about A.J. Brown is, we talked about this, what you need in your first round pick is a guy you can trust every week to produce. And I don't think that's A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown is a guy who's going to have you these great weeks. Then there's going to be these weeks where he's a total letdown. And I don't really want to take that in the first round. I want a guy who, at his worst weeks, is still pretty productive. Like, let's look at his stats are very lopsided last year. This is A.J. Brown, the guy you're saying is in that same tier as them. 7-9, 2-9, 13, 29-5. That's one of those great games I'm talking about. 12, these are all fine games. 13, 20, 25. 12, that's when he's on his run. Then they had their bye. After the bye, 0.8. There's no scenario your first round pick should ever give you 0.8. 9-7, 11.4. 7.4, 5.6. 8, 5.3. In week 18, he had negative points. Negative 1.1.
That's a tough one. That's tough.
So I can't see that and say, I'm going to put this guy in the same tier as CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra, St. Brown. Well, I feel like at least Lamb and Amon-Ra, and pretty much Hill. Hill will have the occasional week where he's not great, but he's still going to be really good. And I can trust him every week. Jamar, when he's healthy and Burrow's playing, I can trust him every week. Jefferson, even with that quarterback concern, he's going to get his every week. And then even Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's the most question mark there. Maybe I won't put Garrett Wilson in that tier, but I can't put A.J. Brown in that same tier as those guys.
Okay, I understand your point.
So, like, if you leave our draft with A.J. Brown as your first-round pick, are you satisfied? Are you happy?
Well, I mean, I think for me, it's a matter of where Brown sits. So you're talking about if everybody drafts the chalk right now, you're probably getting Brown...
Like 10.
9, 8, 9, okay, in that area, right? So I wouldn't be super happy with Brown. But now, all of a sudden, if you're in a 14-team league and Brown falls to where the snake pick is, and now I'm getting Brown and pairing him with somebody else, I think I feel really comfortable with that. I disagree with you again. I'm a little more lenient. I understand your points on A.J. Brown, and actually do not disagree. But yet, behind him is Garrett Wilson, who, again, when you see the numbers he puts up, just like Breece Hall with the worst quarterback play, is pretty impressive. Where I run into problems is right after Garrett Wilson, because now you have Puka Nacua, who I think you are drafting him at his absolute ceiling. Puka Nacua, 12, is literally at his ceiling. Like, you need Puka Nacua to do exactly what he did last year to basically justify a pick. I see where you're coming from.
I don't love Puka Nacua this year, but I think anyone you take in the first round is at their ceiling because it's a first-round pick. So I'm saying you have to be one of the 14 best players in my league to reach that ceiling.
But do you feel that? You feel like Garrett Wilson or Breece Hall has given you their ceiling?
No. But then I think that should almost be more reason to feel confident in Puka. Puka, you're saying you're drafting him at a ceiling that he has reached before. It's not like this unknown territory. Like, Garrett Wilson, who I really like, has never been playing at the quality in fantasy to be a first-round pick. He's never been a first-round pick level player. I think he can be. I wouldn't hate him in the first round. But we're talking about a guy who, I don't love Puka, but I don't think the ceiling argument works because he's hit that ceiling. So are you going to have to make a new ceiling because he broke that ceiling?
My point is, you are literally drafting him at his highest point. And we just don't know. I mean, first of all, the second year regression, right? He wouldn't be the first. They wouldn't exist, that term, if it doesn't happen to players. That second year regression. Second, maybe not. We'll see. But he might start the entire season off with a healthy Cooper Kupp, right? They added a tight end that they really that is a young dynamic tight end. They have Robinson and I'm spacing on their fourth receiver. You also now have two solid running backs. So, and the other question, and this is something that I'd like to be a fly on the wall of a lot of defensive coordinators, is how many teams did he catch off guard last year? How many teams went into the Rams game and said, we need to key on this guy. He is the bona fide number one wide receiver. Shut him down.
For sure. Can I go now? So I think you're saying they have all these guys who none of them really are that good. You're talking about Demarcus Robinson, if I'm not...
Did you see his numbers last year?
Oh, sure. But let's look at offense like the Lions. How many fantasy stars did they produce last year? They had two running backs, their tight end, their wide receiver.
Yes.
And now Jameson Williams is expected to be good this year. That's 5. And you're still taking Amon-Ra in the first round, and you're doing it confidently.
Yes. So you're saying Amon-Ra
Puka Nacua in
and
an
Puka
offense
are the same person.
I think the offenses are somewhat similar. I don't think the Rams' offense is going to be very good. They have a stud running back, And then you look at the receivers, I think they could produce both Kupp and Nakua, but I don't think they have to. I think Nakua is, right now, and I've said on the first episode, Cooper Kupp was overrated. He had a great season. I think right now Puka Nakua is pretty clearly a better player than Cooper Kupp. I think Cooper Kupp's kind of lost what he had that year, the genie in the bottle, whatever it was. I think Nakua's a better player than him, and I think we know what Stafford does to his number one receivers. He cues in on them. So to counter your question about the defenses, how many games the year Cooper Kupp had his monster Triple Crown year? How many games do you think the defense cued in on Cooper Kupp? A lot of them, right? And did that hurt him at all whatsoever? Not necessarily.
But that year that Cooper Kupp had, we can't compare to Puka Nakua. I mean, that was a Super Bowl winning, Super Bowl MVP
but you're
level
not asking him to do that. You're taking him at the end of the first round. You're not saying you have to be the best player in football, one of the best fantasy seasons ever.
You are. You're telling him.
You don't know you're not. There's 7 receivers over him. Right. They're saying you need to be the wide receiver 8. Is that so unbelievable?
Yes. So you're telling me that you feel that much better. So I give you Puka Nakua, and on my team, I take Brandon Aiyuk. You're like, wow, I got clearly the better receiver. How about Deebo Samuel? How about Marvin Harrison Jr.? How about any of those guys?
So we're talking about Marvin Harrison, the guy who goes right after Puka Nakua.
No, he's not right. He's like 6-7 players.
I thought we were talking about Yahoo. We're looking at Yahoo ADP. He's right next to Gary.
Yeah, no. You have Nakua, then after that, Gibbs, Barkley, Henry, Williams, Samuel, Harrison, Mike Evans, Aiyuk, Olave, Devontae Adams, Drake London, Metcalf, Waddle, DJ Moore, all those, Amari Cooper. I do not feel that Puka Nakua has that much separation over any of those names I just named. Any of them.
That is Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
And Jalen Waddle is a very good player. Mm-hmm. This guy is what option would you say he is in your offense?
What, Waddle?
Yeah.
Second option.
He's the second option. So Waddle's more a focus of the offense than Mostert and Achane. Than the running.
Correct.
Game.
Yes.
Okay, sure, you can say that. The second option in an offense, which really is kind of unreliable at times, right? And then I don't think there's any doubt that the Rams' offense is going to be good. And you're looking at this guy who is the bona fide number one option. And Matt Stafford's going to lock in on him. So, but you can say Jalen Waddle. I'm not even going to discuss that one. And then you're an earlier guy. Chris Olave. You think Chris Olave is just as good as Puka Nakua? What have you seen from Chris Olave that really makes you think, wow, I really think that this guy with Derek Carr still at quarterback is going to be so much better and is going to be on the level of the guy who just had the best rookie season of all time?
Well, first of all, his targets. He gets an insane amount of targets.
Mm-hmm. And what has he done with those targets so far? He's been a fine player.
I understand that, but last year they were basically using a Tecmo Bowl offense. They had 4 plays, no motions. Now they got Brent Kubiak. They have a new offensive scheme, and they're utilizing a lot more of the skill set of the players that they have. So I would not sit here and feel like if you had Nakua and I had Olave that I am at some massive disadvantage.
I think
I would not feel that. I would not. Now, if you're sitting there with Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and I'm sitting here with Chris Olave, I do feel an inadequacy in terms of putting my receiver on the same tier as yours. But if you were telling me Puka Nakua, my answer is no. I do not at all.
Man.
100%. Yes.
So you feel fine taking Chris Olave as a top 10 wide receiver?
As a top 10 wide receiver?
Sorry, he's 11 here.
11. When we start getting to that point in time, we've cleared Aiyuk. For me, we're talking with Olave, that is end of the second round, beginning of the third round for us in our league. Would be about...
Well, on Yahoo's a little higher, but...
So, at the same point in time, if it was Olave, you're also probably going to have players on the board around that point that would be like Laporta. You're going to start your quarterback, your high-tier quarterbacks. You'd still have Achane on the board. Pacheco, ETN would still be on the board.
And I think it would be ridiculous to take Olave there. I think
right. So that's what I'm saying. So
if you were talking about tiers, I don't think Chris Olave is even remotely in the same tier as Mike Evans, who here is after him.
Well, that's where my break is. So Mike Evans is where I start looking elsewhere. Harrison Jr. I mean, if I'm picking between him and Kyron Williams or deciding on something like that, I'm taking Harrison Jr. It becomes tougher if I think about like Derrick Henry, Debo, Harrison. I'm probably taking Harrison over Debo, but Henry and then you're talking Barkley, Gibbs, that zone, I'm probably taking it back over Harrison. Then we get to Evans and Aiyuk. Devontae. But at that point in time, it depends on where I'm at with the draft. I might start looking at like, one of the top tier quarterbacks if they're falling to me, like if I'm within a couple picks and it's not a reach. You could also grab a tight end. I like Laporta, but at the same point in time, I don't think I'm taking Laporta where he's at, which again would be a third rounder for us. But that's, again, another complete drafting at the top of his ceiling guy. And you yourself just said a busy offense with a lot of mouths to feed. So I think in this draft, the key for me, and this will be my closing thought, is don't F up the first 4 rounds. So
you say that in the same breath of saying you take Jonathan Taylor over McCaffrey. So yes. I think there needs to be like an asterisk next to that because that's kind of...
But really, so you're saying that if you're coming out of the first round with Jonathan Taylor, wherever you draft him, but you typed it in, Zach's team with the pick whatever is taking Jonathan Taylor.
I'm fine with him in the first round. But here's this. If I take him early in the first round, which is where you want to take him, now I get a worse second round pick. If I take him where he should be, I'm getting a good second round pick. So, yes, if I leave the first round with Taylor, I'm not unsatisfied. But then when I leave the second round with a guy who I really don't like that much, I think it's not the same as if I take McCaffrey, who I think...
But then why wouldn't you take a guy in the second round you like? You're telling me there's not 14 out of 14 players in the second round, there's not one of them you'd like?
Well, they might not be there. Because I'm taking Jonathan Taylor with the first pick.
Okay. But how's that? What does it do with the second round? If anything, you might have just skewed the draft and had other players drop into the second round because of a shakeup like that could leave more players on the board to be taken in a second. I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, all the way to 1.14. What matters is that you're constructing your team. And if I'm going in with the approach of I want, 4 players with high floor. And now I'm looking at that and I'm saying, okay, I can go with Jonathan Taylor as my starting back. I like him for whatever reason, right? Or you say McCaffrey or whatever. Like who in the first round outside of A.J. Brown, right, would we really say or go in and probably Garrett Wilson. You have to put him there too because you just don't know. Nakua would be another one. Are going to have volatility where you're saying you could legit get burned, like straight burned, out barring injury. Okay, so we'll leave injury off the table, but we're talking about just performance when they're on the field. So A.J. Brown is volatile. Like you said, he can give you a 30-point week, he can give you a negative-point week. Garrett Wilson, you just don't know. I mean, he's got all the tools. He's a stud. He is produced with people that shouldn't even be playing quarterback in the NFL, right? But volatile. But there's not a lot of other volatility there.
But I think there's the guys at the top, at least like McCaffrey, Lamb, Hill, you can't even think of something to say. So, I mean, I'm sure you could. But like then, if you want to say Jamar Chase, there's been times when he's been on the field and he's been healthy and he hasn't been the most productive since his rookie year. So I wouldn't say that, but I think then you look at a guy at the top like McCaffrey, what can you really say about him, his play on the field? There's really nothing you can say. So I think there's definitely more volatile guys, but I think what you want is the guys who have, I don't know what volatile, you're using words I don't know, the guys with the least volatility.
You got like the 1600 on the SAT. I got the 800, man.
I think if you're looking for guys who you can trust to produce in a low floor, just going back to McCaffrey,
high floor.
His floor is higher than Jonathan Taylor.
Okay. I understand your point. And I will concede that argument if you want to sit here and we're gonna bang on their numbers from the past. Yes, McCaffrey has been a much more proven fantasy back than Taylor. But to keep things moving along so that we don't, even though I love talking fantasy and we can make this a 9-hour podcast so that it's not a 9-hour podcast and you get up to Cape Cod, my point is that if we walk out of the first round, right, with Jonathan Taylor, you're not hating yourself. If we see each other after the draft and you're like, I got Taylor and I got ETN, I paired together my first 2 rounds, I'm feeling good, as you should, because you're like, I got 2 number 1 running backs, right? Now, maybe your receivers start to suffer when you reach that, third, for us, that 3rd, 4th round dead zone. But don't screw the first 4 rounds up. And sometimes that comes with also not expecting your first round pick to be your league winner, right? Production, consistent production, getting a guy that can stay on the field the entire, the entire year, and play in an offense that that they are one of, you have to say, the top 2 people in that offense getting fed the ball. Like that's a first round pick for me. Like all the potential. Like that's why it's tough with Gibbs, because Gibbs, like, he shares a backfield. They have 2 other viable receiving options that are just money to be spread around. Same thing with Nakua. Like we can argue all we want about his ceiling, but we can't argue the fact that Kupp will eat into, if Kupp plays the entire year, he will eat into his count.
It's fair enough,
right? And then if you're talking about Blake Corum and Kyron Williams, and now they're saying that Corum might be a bigger part of the offense than originally thought. Those offenses work with ball distribution, so I get it. And you see, that's, to me, like, the area. So for me, I'm trying to target in these first couple rounds guys who are going to, have at least like a 90% snap count, meaning if I'm watching that football game, they are on the field for at least 90% of those offensive plays, and that they are one of the top 2 options on that team. That's my focus this year, because it is a deep draft for running backs and receivers. So whether you're going hero RB, zero RB, I think you have to get guys in the first 4 rounds that are going to be on the field the majority of their team's offensive snaps.
I think it's tricky because I think if you want to go the way you're going, I think the key is to take someone who's done it before. Because I want to see that this person can do it. Because I took Najee Harris a few years ago with my first round pick. And I was so happy in the moment. And I ended up trading him. He was super disappointing. Was he hurt? Maybe. Was he a first round pick? No. And had he ever produced like a first round pick? No. So I think if you really want to say, I don't want to gamble, I can't mess up this pick, I think you first got to go and say, I want to take someone who's done it before. So has a guy, and I love Bijan Robinson. He may be my first round pick. But has he done it before? He hasn't. So it gets a little risky. Like, if you want to say, I want it 100%, I can't mess this up, I think a guy like McCaffrey or Lamb or Hill, someone who's done it before, makes more sense than a guy almost like Bijan or Taylor who hasn't. But if you want to roll the dice and say, I could mess it up, but I could end up having this monster who wins me my league, and say maybe there's a chance that this doesn't work out, I think it's fine taking someone who hasn't done it before. But I think you got to be very careful when you're walking that slope, especially, like, you can go into the second round, a guy like Drake London. I mean, obviously a lot changed for Drake London. Drake London has never produced like a top 4 round pick. And suddenly he's going in round 2 or 3. And I really don't see why that would be justified around guys like Amari Cooper or even Mike Evans, guys who at that same range have done it and produced and returned value at that same spot before.
I get it. But, I mean, for every argument that you make about Christian McCaffrey, I could hit you with Travis Kelce, Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, all these other, like, top-tier mainstays of, like, these are guys that if they're idiot-proof, but then all of a sudden they have that year when it starts to fall off.
At least for Kelce, he's a pass catcher. That makes it a little more difficult. And he lost, for some reason, it almost seemed like I had him on my team last year and I will never draft him again. It seemed like he lost his drive to want to catch the ball. He never ran routes that even seemed designed to catch the ball. So that was almost a freak situation. The other ones, Dalvin Cook was hurt. Dalvin Cook at no point when he was in his prime and healthy didn't produce. He came back after the injuries and he wasn't the same because of the injuries. Austin Eckler, that's a scenario where you could see that happening. I don't know. Austin Eckler lost all of his burst. But you know what I always said to Austin Eckler, and I said this to you many times. I said Austin Eckler, when he was great, I said he's a great fantasy player. Austin Eckler is not one of the 5 best running backs in football. In actual football, Austin Eckler is not that good. And McCaffrey is that good. So I think if McCaffrey's healthy, he is to the level of skill, and that's how good he is. I think you can feel super confident, if he is healthy, that he's going to be right there again.
All right. Well, you guys let us know what you think out there. Who are you taking with the 1.1? Who are you taking with the 1.1?
Christian McCaffrey.
So we've now erased all doubt.
Well, you'll never know.
I never know.
We'll see. Maybe
you just made this argument how you're a complete bona fide moron if you don't take McCaffrey.
Maybe I'll throw a curveball on draft day.
Oh, my Lord. All right. Well, listen, I hope you have an awesome time in Cape Cod, my friend. The number 22 Reggie Bush Dolphins episode, a solid one. Producer, who are you taking with the 1.1? Okay. Thank you guys so much.
Whoa.
What are you doing? Where are you at? Where are you at?
It's a big pick. I'm not just going to jump the gun and say something like, Christian McCaffrey or something. I'm going to think about it.
Okay. She's thinking about it.
I'm going to go with Bijan.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, if you want to go Bijan, they said they're going to use him like McCaffrey.
Are you joking? So I say something and you light me up like a Christmas tree.
I mean,
the producer says something and we're like, hey,
I'd
man,
be much more comfortable. I'd be much more comfortable taking Bijan than Jonathan Taylor.
Oh my God.
I mean,
all right, listen, we all see, and everybody out there, they know. They see what's going on around these parts. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. Let us know in the comments who you feel your greatest dream team starting 5 would be. Let us know what you think of this upcoming fantasy season and what your strategy will be going into your league. Let us know what kind of leagues you're playing in. Standard, PPR, half-point PPR, Superflex, maybe you're going to get wild and crazy. Who knows? And who your 1.1 will be. Wishing you all a happy, safe, and fun fantasy draft season. What's your favorite fantasy draft snack? What are we eating on draft day?
Like mini pretzels. Like mini soft pretzels. So like soft pretzel bites.
Mustard?
So. Nah, plain.
With no mustard?
No mustard.
Grilled cheese, baby. And potato chips.
Maybe you should change that.
Maybe it's charcuterie
Maybe it'll
board.
work this year.
I'm winning this year. Put it in the books. I'm taking it to the house. Anyway, I will sign off for the 5th time. Everybody out there, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time.